My name is Infojanitor. Normally I don't get to talk at venues like this. I'm usually speaking to a different type of audience. And actually it's really good that I am actually having a chance to be here after having some discussions with my corporate lawyers. Today's talk is going to be on virtual trust, virtual permission, and the illusion of security. And basically I'm hoping to make you aware of how some things have become what they didn't intend to be. And it's been done through manipulation by corporations to the consumer market versus the user market. I consider us users because we actually use technology. You know, we do things with technology that other people, well, they just don't do it. They don't have that curiosity. They don't have that drive, you know, that need to get out there and see what else it can do to determine where the Easter eggs are, to determine the additional undocumented functionality. Standard disclaimer. Yay, yes, I am here of my own will and volition. I do not represent my company or customer in any way, shape, or form. All the views, ideas, concepts, foul language, and rude gestures, which there will be many, are mine and mine only. Artist discretion is advised. So, obligatory elements. Who am I? I'm a pre-1986 child, and what that means is that I played on the internet before 1986 came about. It was a banner year. The reason that it was a banner year is because in '86, they developed this thing. It's called the CFAA. It's Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. And it told me that a lot of stuff that I was doing before that was really, I guess was considered illegal or frowned upon because there was no law. I mean, they can only get you with the Wiretapping Act of '79, and well, I never tapped any wires. So, I got started here. This is my gateway drug. It's Commodore 64, it was awesome at the time, totally rocked. I actually did some hardware hacks on it in order to implement a secondary SID when I was 13, and it was awesome, because this thing rocked. It taught you everything you needed to know. Friends of mine and I, we ran a little BBS called the Digitalized Fortress. I co-sysoped it. I'm a recovering co-sysop. So, as I said, there were none of these, so we had a ball. I mean, we did everything. It's the Mike J. Henry era. You're rocking fast hack'em-wares, you're sending disk bombs at people, you're just doing what you do. And then someone said that was bad. And then the year after, in '87, they really kind of closed the door with the CSA, the Computer Security Act. And I started watching people that I know become guests of the government. So I said, time to stop this, and let's do something that might get me somewhere. I started doing a lot of database work, picking up database construction, and somehow found an internship at a national lab, which is Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, and parlayed that into an actual job. And it was pretty cool. I heard lots of stories, lots of things about people and the things that they did, and they lived lifetimes beyond me because, well, I was a teenager. And I thought, I need to get some stories. How do you get some stories? You know, how do you expand your knowledge? So as I said, the laws came about. That kind of put an end to my fun. So I went off to the wild blue yonder because they told me they had this technology that was way advanced. You had never seen it before, and it was going to be awesome. And I'm working at a lab where it's really advanced technology, but they said they had better tech. So I went there. And just like vendors lie to consumers, I found out that that story might not be true. It's what we call a lie. So I met an awesome person in California who became my wife. Somehow she put up with all my quirkiness. And for 2 years, she convinced me that that was not the place that I needed to be. I do believe she said it sucks and it's sapping your will to live. But it still took her 2 years to convince me of this. Because apparently I found out that while I was in the military, I had a problem with authority. So she convinced me to go back to the commercial world. And I did. I've never actually worked at this store, but this slide is in here as an insult to a company that I used to work for, because this is what happens when a company buys you, and they don't give you raises, they give you really cool blue shirts. So a few minutes of searching on the internet, printing out placards and elements to cover up all of their logos on the shirt, and I look like a Best Buy guy. We were also doing a talk on social engineering and how the human mind completes the picture even when the picture is wrong, and as we did our talk, we all turned and grabbed our things, put our things on, and the whole audience went, "Oh my God, they look like Best Buy employees." To which our statement was, yeah, we're not your regular speakers, but we did stay at a Holiday Inn Express. If you notice, actually on the tag it says Isaac because we went with a Love Boat theme. So we're here to talk about trust. Trust in the sense of what we consider trust. We consider these elements as control elements. We talk about trust in terms of cascading zones of trust, or trust zones, or having systems that are trusted, so that we are aware of the fact that they have certain limited functions and they only do what we intended them to do, and we don't expect anything out of them that might be bad. But that's not what a consumer thinks trust is. Because the actual definition, we go with the subliminal, is on the screen. Consumers look at trust only from the means of an emotional construct. And in looking at trust from the means of an emotional construct, we have a problem. Because they establish that trust with a thing, they establish that trust with software, they establish that trust with objects. And in establishing that trust with objects, they form an emotional bond or a construct with them. Like people in here, I'm sure you've all heard people say, I love my car. My car is awesome. It's like they love the car so much they name it, right? Name the car. Some people name other parts or other things, but they do put names to them to establish that emotional human context. So when we think of permission in terms of control gates once again, things that something is allowed to do or things that something is not allowed to do. But that's not what consumers think of permission. They think of it as, just something that, it just does something for you, I'm good, let it do that. And 9 times out of 10, when they think of permission, a company is promoting it to them as more of an ease of use factor. It's like, why should you have to make that decision to do that? Why won't you just let the machine do it? It's obviously smarter than you, So let the machine handle it. You don't want to be bogged down with trivial things. And of course, our favorite, the whole reason why we're here, the assumption, I'm assuming that everyone in the room is, pretty much into security. Yeah? Well, the actual definition of security is protection, from danger, damage, loss, or crime. Do we have anything that actually does that in our realm? We really don't. Not from the perspective of what we're thinking about. What we're actually talking about is, well, it's not truly security in the sense of security. But you should remember this definition and these definitions because, there might be a quiz at the end. So, given those definitions, we ask ourselves a simple question, which I've already asked you, and that is, how do those terms fit in a consumer environment? Well, in a consumer environment, they don't really fit very well. And also, how does a corporation establish that trust covenant with their consumer market, that permission covenant with their consumer market, and how do they establish a level of security with their consumers? Because if they don't establish these elements, well then the consumer's not going to consume, and that wouldn't be sensible because that's what consumers do. They go out there and they buy stuff. So corporations do this through good marketing. Good marketing is awesome, right? You can sell just about anything with good marketing. I mean, we know some major corporations that may exist in Redmond that have done this. They promote themselves very, very well, and people are apt to run out and get their stuff. I mean, hell, we've turned technology into rock star events. You've seen guys on the news, he's the first guy and he's walking out of the store with an iPad 2 because he's the man. It's like there's lots of people cheering and everything's great and there's long lines of people lined up outside the store to not go in and get something for free, but to go in with their money and purchase something so that they can feel some type of affirmation to the technology? It's kind of odd to me. I don't understand that, but that's the world that we have now. They do good advertising, because sometimes even when it sucks, it's good advertising. So during the advertising thing, hey, we all know that there are things that sell just about anything, and usually those are the things that cater to your basic needs. If none of that works, they put something crappy out and then they have a sale or a discount. There is a sale. I'm not certain if I'd want it, but I suppose it is as good a reason as any to have a sale. So They do all of these things in order to lull the consumer into an emotional covenant or construct with the product or product line. In doing that, they're attempting to get that customer to be loyal to that brand, to have that emotional construct. Most of us don't have that emotional construct with technology. We just don't. We see it as a means to an end, a means to discover what it can do, a means to get into it and just basically dissect it sometimes. You know, hence we wear the I void warranties, you know, hey, I tore through your code, it sucked. You know, we get online, we tweet, we post, we do the IRC thing. We do everything we can to keep each other informed, which is great. That's what we need to do. But this is pretty much our motto on brand loyalty. Our motto on brand loyalty can go fuck itself. And by the way, I don't normally get to use profanity in my conversation with people, so I might say fuck a lot up here. But basically, brand loyalty can go fuck itself because what's good today, one of you in the audience might find out is severely detrimental to the consumer population before I finish my talk. And you're going to post it. And all hell's going to break loose in the Twitterverse. And people are going to get riled up. And the news is going to come in. And they're going to say, I need to interview that guy because he's awesome, because he's found this gaping hole, and it's ridiculous. But what happens in the consumer market? Nothing. Not one fucking thing. They don't care. You could say, oh yeah, you know, if Charlie Miller has found out that, if you're able to do something to bypass the firmware on batteries, you can literally burn the shit out of someone from their laptop because you take that regulator off. Has that ever been seen outside of our security venues to the consumer market, on the news, at all? That's danger, right? I mean, he's basically trying to eventually get it to explode, which would be really cool, but he's got to get it to that level before it becomes an issue for the consumer market to even go, yeah, we may need to tell our people about that. No, probably not. Because they just don't seem to care. They're loyal to a brand to a fault. And here's why. When we talk about trust, what they're sold is confidence. The consumer market is sold confidence. Confidence that your product it's going to be awesome, and it's not going to affect you. It's not truth, it's a belief. And beliefs are awesome, they're great, but reality is reality. You know, we know things that are horrible. We know things that are bad. We know things that we would never have in our home. And we don't allow those things in our home, or we take the time to set up certain security controls or gates that prevent those bad things from happening. So when a company is also attempting to tell people about permission, what they actually mean is consent. And consent is not permission. They're given that consent through elements that sound really, really good for you, like ease of use. Every time I hear ease of use, I really hear the guy saying ease of abuse. Because literally, if it's so easy that you've levied it as not being a human decision and allowed the machine to do it, well, I wanted to set the permissions. I didn't want the machine to make those decisions for me because it may not know from time to time what the actual decision needs to be. It's basically a binary operation. It's either going to do what you told it to do or it's not going to do what it told you to do. I don't want machines having that. They don't have the knowledge to make that human decision, but they are allowed to. And unfortunately, it's not getting better. It is moving to what I call problematic pervasiveness. And we will get into that. They want security, but what they actually receive is protection. And protection is not security per se. It's a very small, finite facet of it. And I say that because if I were to translate a simple firewall rule set into reality, then literally that rule set would say something to the effect of, I'm going to stop you from a guy approaching let's say a firewall for your house. I will stop a guy from approaching your house if he steps with his right foot and grabs the doorknob with his right hand. And then he switches his foot. Oh, I got to rewrite a signature. Oh, he's now got one finger on the doorknob. I've got to rewrite a signature. You're constantly having to rewrite signatures versus a more heuristic-based approach which looks for an anomalous behavior that could potentially be criminal in nature. So, after consumers lulled into their false relationship, what do? Well, they start to purchase more security, don't they? Because if one product is good, well, 20 of them is probably better. And corporations market that. They leverage that fear. They have them consume as much security elements as they can get their hands on. And what does that make security to the consumer? Makes it a pain in the ass. It's like, oh, I've got to put in my password to log on to my password. Now once I'm in, I need to bring up my desktop and get my email and put in a password for that. And you just keep building these constructs to the consumer market that makes them think security is just a big hassle. And because it's usually their own private elements, not talking about corporate elements yet, but we will get into that, what do they normally do when it comes to security? Anyone? Same password. That's right. Same password is better than what I was thinking. They just turn it off. They're like, oh, this is bullshit. I'm just trying to see the game online. Kill that password. Or they write it down somewhere, and let everybody know it, or post it on boards. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with Shodan and finding vulnerable elements, or just using Google. Google works for you. Works for me too. And you can just use it to go find people's passwords. You can find vulnerable targets and things that line up to them so that you can just totally damage it. Because the consumers, unfortunately, outnumber us. They are a lot. So with consumers, well, they don't know what they don't know. It could be a problem. We know what they don't know, but they don't know what we know. Because if they knew what we knew, well, they'd see their position, and clearly we can see that they are. Are there any vendors in the room? Because I'm not really trying to insult any vendors. I love vendors. I pimp your gear, wear your shirts. I happily evaluate your stuff. I'm good with that. But the problem is, under the context of what security is, those are not security products, they're protection products. And as protection products, they're great, but they're marketed as security. You use it to placate people, to make them feel safe. We know that even if you have these security elements in place, well, things can pass through and totally fuck the consumer. And the consumers generally don't even know when something bad has happened. They only know when their machine is affected to the point where the performance becomes so degraded that they can't play their Angry Birds, that they can't go online and chat with Aunt Jenny, they can't do the things that they would do. Okay, that's when they kind of have a feeling that something's wrong. And as soon as they have a feeling that something's wrong, what's their first reaction? They tell their friends. They don't say, I believe I have a security incident. Bob, something's wrong. They say, I've totally been hacked, because everybody's an expert at spotting what hacking is. And that's something that annoys me, because it doesn't mean what they think it means. We have our own definition. The news has its own definition. So, these are the things we know, which pretty much doesn't make it a problem because it's kind of relegated to certain finite elements. Laptops, your servers, regular desktop boxes, those type of things. Those products that we physically see and recognize as, well, computers, right? Because that's what they are. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink because it's about to get bumpy. What about that? It's a car, right? Really? Anyone still think cars are cars? Phones are phones? Anything is anything? We have managed in our lifetime to turn pretty much everything into that. Not necessarily that, but that is totally cool, because totally rocking like old style, I don't know, IBM PC, XT era, somewhere around 88. That thing freaking rocks. But the problem is, we've taken everything and made it that. And they still think it's this, but we know it's that. And when this becomes that, things get totally weird, because we've now established the problematic pervasiveness. We've taken the problem sets that before were on elements that sorry, you could see it, you could spot it, you know what it was. It's a computer, and it's right there. And we put it into everything. And now the same problems that were affecting your desktop, your servers, your laptop, your phones, because those are no longer phones, but the problem is we don't have any other word for them. We use the same words, and the trust covenant has been well established with phones and cars and other things. So how does a corporation get people to put the tech in their car? Well, funny story, Mini Cooper, they decided to have a campaign in 4 test cities where they thought, it'd be really cool. People need emotional affirmation from their vehicle. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a campaign in 4 different cities where we're gonna allow them to buy a fob and write to the fob, cool message, interacts with the billboards. Totally Minority Report, totally ninja. So as they drive by these interactive billboards, their cool message will pop up and tell people how cool they are. Because that's what people want, right? They need that level of emotional affirmation from their car. So people are allowed to do that. Anybody Chris Paget much? Using him as in a verb-like sense? And he talks about the elements that are available, how you can rewrite these things, how you can rewrite the tags, because the tag that they use is an RFID tag. There is no cryptography, there's no protection scheme, and they say, well, we will, at our discretion, determine what messages go out there. Well, you can do that, but if I buy the fob, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna rewrite the fob to something really rude. And every time I pass your billboard, you've already given me the fob. It's got a chip in it, and I can just write to it and write anything I want to it. Is that a bad thing? It's not a bad thing? I don't know. I'm still thinking maybe bad. Maybe. Put up an ex-girlfriend's name or her phone number. Because that would be awesome. Not that I ever had any of those. My wife is in the audience. Never had any of those, though, by the way. I just wanted to say, as an example, that's what I would probably do. So you may be thinking, okay, well, that just caters to vanity, and I'm not vain. You're just trying to frighten me with your message of fear. Fear and derision for all. But the sad part is that campaign was actually successful, and I do believe at this point all Minis now have that chip built into them. So instead of it being a fob you could buy, they've passed the cost on to you and placed the device in your vehicle. Isn't that kind of them? It's very nice of them, isn't it? They give you the chance to buy something so you can customize your car. I don't need that in my life. I'm a Jeep driver, 4 wheels, maybe some brakes, a steering wheel. I'm good. Another method of how they get it is obviously through promotions. Has anybody seen these on TV? Snapshot? Flow from Progressive, how they've humanized an entire insurance corporation into one ditzy lady running a belt and a register. And she tells you, oh, well, you could save up to 30% if you will place this tracking/monitoring device into your vehicle. Oh, wait, she doesn't say that. She says, if you'll place this device in your vehicle, it will monitor your vehicle, and then potentially you will save up to 30% on your insurance. She also tells you funny things like, I know you might be concerned that the snapshot gets things about you like your driving habits or speeding. It doesn't care about that. I'm sorry, but maybe I missed that in a programming class. When did you program machines to care? When did you program a device to have an emotional construct or content? You didn't. You just didn't. But they're telling you that it only collects 4 elements. Well, the funny thing is, doing a little bit of research, you find out that this is basically a customized version of the OBD2 commercial product you can buy for a couple $100. And it collects 23 elements of your vehicle. And so does theirs. But they tell you it only cares about these 4 things. Looking through a lot of the forums, there were people that are saying apparently it may not care about those other 19 elements, but it damn sure records them. Because people are turning these things back in, and some people have been dropped from this insurance. The sad part is, Progressive actually has they have the moxie, not Marlinspike, to actually put forward to you that, hey, we've got a campaign, and there's a crazy lady with a name tag, and you should do that. There are other insurance companies that are actually doing this, they're just not advertising it. They're allowing you to have the device, place the device in your car for 30 days, and then mail it back to them, and everything's great. But it's not. It's actually not. You're actually reporting elements such as hard braking, speeding, all sorts of fun things that you may not want your insurance company to know on a day-by-day basis. Why should they have to take that type of data from you in order to determine what's going on? You know, you pay your insurance company. If something happens, you call them and they drop you. I mean, they file your claim. They don't drop you. They file your claim and you totally are paid for it or something. So that was my question, is that, you know, does anybody see a problem with that? And obviously, we as a security community, we do. But what about the consumer market? Anybody? That's right, they hear 30% off, they hear a sale, they hear a discount. And because of that, they flock in masses to whatever is going to give that to them. And progressive sales are actually up because potentially I could only pay 70% of money to this insurance company, which might be less than Joe Slobneck's insurance down the street. So therefore, that's a discriminator. I'm going there. So currently, it is optional for that company, but the reality is the more successful that product becomes and the more successful tests like that become, what tends to happen? It becomes the norm. It could become the norm for every insurance company to have you give them a device or them give you a device. And they take that device and you put it in and you send it back to them and then all hell could break loose for you. Or maybe they could eventually convince your vehicle to just send them the information. Speaking of vehicles sending the information, the Nissan Leaf is a prime example of technology that is built with problematic pervasiveness in it. It is a full electric car. It's promoted as, you know, being completely green. It's like, hey, going green. Green is another word that sometimes kind of bothers me because it's not used in the context that it's meant. And with this vehicle, the tracking device is built into it. There's the ability to discover how fast someone is going from point to point, to pipe that data out. And if you have a chance to look at the actual stream of data, you find out that the car is ridiculously chatty. Commercials are actually piped into the car. So that if you're in an area and you've stopped at Bob's Big Boys, if there are still any in the United States, because, you know, everybody likes a big boy, it'll start piping those things to you because it's kind of supplementing the company, and there's RSS feeds, and those feeds come in, and, you know, those feeds make money via, you know, some revenues also. So that information is now being sent to you. And even if you didn't want it, it's being sent to you. You can't escape it. It's there. But at the same time, you're giving up your privacy of where you are and what you like, and you are keeping these revenue streams going for these other industries. So once again, you may think that I am, you know, just stirring up the whole fear derision thing. You know, you may not have that fob. You don't have that insurance company, not tracked, can't get you with the scare tactics, which is also a great way that businesses sell things. They sell security through fear. I actually had someone say this to me, and I had to walk away because I was like, but what do you mean those are just privacy issues and not security issues? How is a privacy issue not a security issue? I didn't even get that. But I've had people tell me that because the powers that be, they don't understand all the aspects of what security is. If I know your user population, or if I'm able to track individuals, well then I'm kind of decreasing the security of your element because I'm able to follow them. You know, I mean, you've always seen, well, in the past, if there was a strike going on or something odd going on, you'll see a guy in a lawn chair with a clipboard sitting in front of the industry, right? Sitting in front of the business. What do you think that guy's doing? Is he just kind of hanging out because that's a great place to catch a tan in front of the gate? No, he's collecting data. He's looking at those things. He's looking at those elements. So privacy elements are security elements, you know, at least to me. Yeah. So that was my response. It's like when someone said, I was like, seriously? You don't seem to relate those? That's not an issue for you? So what you're telling me is I can find out anything about you and I'm good? Awesome. I'm going to use Multigo, start tracking you. It's going to be great. Does anyone know what this is? Yes, it is. It is a tire sensor. It's a tire pressure monitor sensor. How it operates, this one is, well, there are two types of sensors. There's indirect and direct. This one is direct because, well, it's a little more effective. It's a little more, the information it gathers from each individual tire is much better than the indirects. With the indirects, you can't sometimes determine as to which tire. You can determine an axle, and determine an axle is good, but it doesn't tell you whether it's going to be the right one that's having an issue or the left one. So they decided to go with this type of sensor. These sensors pretty much are placed with the steel rim, valve stem's metal, goes up, everything's great. And the funny thing about these sensors is they work via Bluetooth. They work via Bluetooth. They're each an individual unique ID. So you have a minimum of 4 on your vehicle, unless you have some kind of weird car that has 3 tires, or 2, that's a motorcycle, or maybe 5 if you have your spare. And their sole purpose is to make this indicator, the meter, either light to tell you that the pressure is good, which means nothing's going to happen, or the pressure is bad, which means the light goes on. And that would be awesome, because it was marketed as a safety device to prevent blowouts and low pressure and save you on gas and all that happy hoo-ha, because, well, that's what they promoted it as. But some researchers here in the United States and some other researchers in Japan have collaborated and found out that because of problematic pervasiveness and placing Bluetooth and sensors on rolling servers, rolling systems, rolling computers, cars, that they can actually violate the Bluetooth sensor in the tire pressure monitor, and they can go in and do some interesting things, because there's other safety features that are required by the Department of Transportation, such as the universal dashboard in your vehicle, which is supposed to be essentially a monitoring system for all the subsystems in your car, which is great because it gives them a one-stop shop, and they can plug their the onboard sensor in and pick up everything. Well, they found that they could violate those elements. Before, they needed physical access in order to violate those elements. But when they instituted the tire pressure monitors somewhere around 2005, 2006, and then in 2007, they said, well, 20% has to be complete, and then in 8, like 70, and then by 2009, 100% compliance. Well, they found that they could violate that Bluetooth element, go in through that universal dashboard, through the tire pressure monitors, vulnerability, and Bluetooth, and do some fun things like lock your doors, turn off your brakes. That, to me, doesn't really feel like a safety or security feature, because if you've put an ingress point to my car, and they can do this from a distance, I believe the distance is a mile, that's kind of frightening to me. I don't really want that, but you have to have it. And the sad part is, they don't give it to you. You have to buy these things. You actually have to buy them, and they're not cheap. And if you have a blowout, well, you got to replace it, because you got to put that tracking / vulnerability back onto your vehicle. It's required. So that's bad, and I thought it was bad, and I didn't think it could get much worse, but there is more. There's something that is being tested, which is called car-to-car or vehicle-to-vehicle or whatever after they decide and stop bickering. It's Betamax versus VHS, as far as I'm concerned. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to further turn your car into a computer, except for they're just going to straight make it a node, a roaming node. What you're looking at is a diagram of the proposed vehicle-to-vehicle communication system, which is supposed to be set up so that your vehicle is aware of all other vehicles in the proximity of it, approximately 1,000 meters, but we all know that that is what is optimal ranges. Doesn't mean that's reality, because in reality, Wi-Fi stops at your house, right? And it doesn't. And so therefore, using their vehicle-to-vehicle communications process, they are allowed to be cognizant of nodes, send out private or public communications. Public communications are essentially emergency vehicle in the area, pull over to the right, because apparently people have forgotten what to do when a fire truck runs by, or an ambulance. They just kind of sit there, or, my favorite, they chase it. Hey, it's cutting through traffic. And they're just rolling along like they don't know they're not supposed to do that. The term ambulance chaser, you're not a lawyer. Stop. But they'll do it. The problem with this technology that they put in is that instead of them going with certain elements that, like a LiDAR, a sonar, something that would, kind of determine proximity and thereby potentially engage systems such as your brakes in your vehicle or other elements to actually protect you from striking things. They decided to do something that's called 802.11p. Has anyone ever heard of it? 802.11p? 802.11p is a retrofitted 802.11b, because we know there's no vulnerabilities in that. And they've decided to take that and use that as their finite or limited communication system between each node, because they don't even call them cars, they're just calling them what they are, so that messages can be sent. So in your car, I could send a message to the car ahead of me, which would be kind of awesome because, hey, jerk off, your blinker's on. I'm tired of following you. Make a turn or get out the way. That kind of thing, which would be pretty awesome. But it's probably not going to be that kind of party. We want it to be that kind of party, but it's not. Primarily, it's so that emergency vehicles can send information to you. So I guess if the cops are behind you and they're yelling at you, well, maybe you can't hear. They'll text you. That's the way it is. So that communication transport mechanism, as I was saying, is based off of 802.11p, wireless access to in vehicular environments. They call it the WAVE. As you may note, the acronym is also what you're doing to any form of security. You're saying bye to it because it's just leaving you. They're placing more and more technology in the vehicle to make it vulnerable. They're calling it a vehicular communication system. As I said before, it is so that all vehicles and roadside units. Roadside units refers to anything that's not a regular consumer vehicle, meaning you. Anything that's not a car that is publicly available from local government, such as fire engines, police cars, and those elements, well, those all fall under roadside units. And they can communicate with any node. It is based off of DSRC, which is dedicated short-range communication, but their short range, as I said before, is 1,000 meters. And we all know that those are optimal ranges, as with anything. And it will support, as I stated, private and public data communications to each node. So will be pretty awesome. I totally expect that once this technology comes out, there'll be someone that comes up with a cool hack that allows me to emulate a fire truck so I can get everybody out of my way and just keep rolling down the road because the system's gonna come on and say a fire truck's behind you. And you better be moving, right? Or a police car. That might be stepping a little over the line. But I totally expect that hack to happen, because you're putting the technology in that allows for it to happen. Why wouldn't I mess with it? Or someone, not me, because my customer doesn't really like me to do that, not without just giving them the research. So, I know what you're thinking. Maybe you don't own a car. Maybe you live with your mom. She lives with you. And, up yours, janitor, because you're just trying to make me panic. You're trying to put that fear in me, just like a company would to get me to buy something. But I don't want you to get you to buy something. I actually want you to just think that, once again, we're turning everything into a system, into a node on the grid. And by the way, weren't we running out of IP addresses in the friggin' 4 range and Wi-Fi and everything? And just Joe Klein in the back, Mr. IPv6, he's gonna tell you, hey, we've got X number to the 18th power of addresses in order to throw things on there. And we do, but that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean it's something that we should be doing. And that's the problem, is no one's standing up to say, I don't want that. Consumer market, when it comes to technology, has been convinced to do what? To buy it, the complete opposite. It's like, hey, we just put new technology into this new widget, and if you tap this widget 18 times, it will explode and kill you. Really? Is it on sale? Why, yes, it is. I'll take 2. It's that kind of party, because that's just the way it is. So, if you don't own the car, you don't have that fob, you're not with that insurance company, you're kind of safe, right? Everything's cool, because, fuck it. I'm just rolling plane with my mom where I live. Well, what if the consumer market was taken advantage of by some items you've actually established a trust covenant with, you don't even think about? I'm sure that most, if not all of you, have some of these items in your home. So what if they took advantage of some of those, or all of them? This is a product line that's being pushed by LG. And if you know it and you're not fucking afraid, then you're not paying attention. Because what LG has done is they've taken the whole concept of trust, permission, and security, and they've just thrown it the fuck away. They've developed a line called the Think line. And the Think line has elements that I would never want in places that they've put it. I always jump on their refrigerator because their refrigerator is in excess of $3,000. And that is the only thing that most of the reviewers are talking about when they look at this product. They're like, oh, that refrigerator is over $3,000 and people aren't going to buy it. But the rule about technology is the first few models is usually low pricey. Then it comes down to the average. You know? And like trying to find a cell phone without a camera in it, you know, the convergence of the elements that they placed into it are just not things I would want. They've made it a node, they've made it internet active. Some of the models, other models, actually have a removable pad so you can walk around the house, check all the stuff in your refrigerator. You know, it's totally technologically advanced, more powerful than most computers from 10 years ago, and it's a refrigerator. What the fuck? That made no sense to me. But here's why they've done it. Because now you don't have to think about making a recipe. What you do is you put your food in your fridge. Your fridge will scan everything in the fridge because it's banking upon, currently, barcode technology, which the devices have. Eventually, that'll become RFID. And when it becomes RFID, your refrigerator will still be able to scan all those elements and tell you what recipes you can get. Or, if it doesn't have those in its local database, it'll go online and find recipes and pull them down because you're obviously too stupid to know what to cook in your own refrigerator. It's completely ignorant. That makes no sense. But the sad part is, due to the fact that it is in fact a wireless device, and it goes out, as you can see, through the access point, which of course all consumers totally have the tightest access points in the world. I mean, like ourselves, or you know, like me, I'm an average example. I have a $1,000 Juniper box at my house that protects my environment. I have run a third-party firmware on my wart, and I segment off elements so that things don't get to each other. So I'm kind of preset because literally that's what consumers have to do. You have to segment off your smart washer from your smart home bot, which they're also promoting that you can feed your dog remotely with your iPhone, and that's cool. Anybody see a dog run up to a robot going, yay, food? No. It's going to attack that friggin' thing. It's like, what the hell is that? It's a Frisbee with a light on it and a camera. Get away from me. It's going to grab it and run around your house with your home bot. But all of these elements do speak to your access point and allow you to have control of them via your smartphone or your tablet PC or anything that's internet connected. And it's also connected to their customer service center. Funny how that works. Is their customer service center here? LG is a Korean company. So my refrigerator, my washer, my dryer, my oven, all touch the other side of the globe. Because apparently my refrigerator is international. It's good like that. And what that also means, though, is that that is a point of ingress to your house. Some kid in Bolivia can go, oh, it's the Think line. Hey, change the parameters of the thermostat so that when they turn it down, they turn it up. You know, or turn it off. You know, for those individuals who are promoting hackback systems, oh, you will see this headline in your time. 1,000 refrigerators, ovens, and toasters were involved in a massive denial of service attack against AT&T. It sounds funny now. It really sounds funny now, but that's what we're looking at. That's the future. And it frightens me. So as I was saying, the price of these products, they kind of keep them out a few years off the market from being generally acceptable. But eventually, the more the technology becomes pervasive, well, so does the problem. And it lowers itself down to levels where people will go, fuck yeah, I want that refrigerator with the cool widgets and the stuff. And I don't ever want to have to say, here, honey, smell this. Tell me if it's bad. Because my fridge will do it. What it also will do, though, is it will SMS you to remind you to buy shit. It'll text you. It'll email you. It'll do everything that a person would do, including the fact that you can assign a credit card to it so it can call Peapod if things run out and you're just too damn lazy to go out and get it. So now we have an internet-connected device that is allowed to make a decision via permissions that you've set, and it has a credit card. Does this frighten the fuck out of everybody? Because it scares me. And I'm pretty hard to frighten. So, I don't like that. But there are the Ted Kaczynskis of the world. And they're, you know, maybe like me and like yourselves, maybe thinking, well, fuck it. I'll cook with fire. I will wash my clothes on a rock. I won't have a television because, well, the televisions now don't have the external fob. They have the Wi-Fi built in. Hell, I've seen the commercials. I've seen what can happen without the Wi-Fi built in. The world falls apart. And I watch hand puppets from my lights. I am safe and secure again. But wait. Everybody panic. Because we've also somehow managed to turn Thomas Edison's dream into a fucking computer. Meet the smart bulb. The smart bulb is being pushed by NXP. NXP is a major manufacturer of compact fluorescent lights, which is awesome. You know, save money, going green. Every time I hear that, once again, I kind of cringe because it's not used in the way that it should be. It is an IP addressable device. Because apparently they don't give a fuck about IPv4. But it's okay because it also does 6. It's good. It's versatile like that. It's based off of a Zigbee controller, which is awesome. Basically a mini processor that allows you to go in and define things so that you can control the lights with absolute certainty. From your what? From your phone, that's right. From your phone, from an internet-connected device, from anything that allows you to have that level of access to it. But the problem is they've built it off of faulty technology. Why? Because almost all technology is faulty. I hate to break the news to you, corporations. It's almost all of it is faulty. With this one in particular, it has a Zigbee controller that if you ever check out Big Ed Scotus's company, there's a guy there, his name is Joshua Wright, and he has shown that the Zigbee controller can totally be fucked with. So now you have some kid in Ohio, because it's close, and he won't let you turn your lights on until you send him $5. Once again, ease of use is simply ease of abuse. By the way, pen testers just had a nerdgasm because it put a whole lot of nodes on the market. They're like, every light bulb, every car, refrigerators, dude, I can't take it. They just can't take it because seriously, you've just put so many things out there that they're like, I didn't even go in the building and I've got like 400 targets. You don't need to purchase something that could be optional. You can have standard societal elements because of the fact that we're turning everything on a computer that can dime you out, become ingress or egress portals, or simply be manipulated by unauthorized entities. And that's bad. So, what is the security illusion? It's the illusion that you can avoid vulnerable technologies. You can't. You live in society. That you can stay off the grid, the sprawl, the big eye. Gibson was right. It's a sprawl. In my lifetime, when I was a kid, and maybe some of you, but not most of you, we were told that we were going to be facing this massive megalopolis. You know, a city that literally went from Maryland up to Connecticut, and there was no borders. And then I got older, and that shit didn't happen. And I was like, guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're just guessing like everybody else. But they actually did. We have developed a technolopolis, a world city, an area where I jump on and I am able to touch things in China. I was in Korea recently and I was able to sit down with my iPod Touch and utilize internet access. I didn't pay for it, don't ask. And I was talking to my team from my iPod Touch and it cost me nothing. When I tried to use my phone, it's like, that'll be $2.64 a minute. I went, fuck that, I'm texting. It's awesome, you know, but it's great. We do have that ability to touch the world from a simple device. But unfortunately, the world also has the ability to touch us, and it's a bad touch. So, we do this, and we need to do this. We can't stop doing that. That's very important. We do this. We're aware. We make each other aware. We talk to each other a lot. But the problem is, we are like a church full of ministers, We talk to each other. We hate talking to consumers because they're kind of stupid. They're kind of stupid. But we have to step out of our comfort zones and actually find a way to get these things across to people. So we've done that too, set up programs, done all these respective things, multiple feeds, info, social media, all of that. That's the hard sell. Obviously, companies don't want us to do that so much because that costs money. And we do it with each other with lugs and all other elements. You know, I mean, you can't swing a dead, alive, Schrodinger's cat through your inbox without hitting all sorts of training sessions, podcasts, and all the like. The big security illusion is that there is some group looking out for the consumer, and there just isn't. Like an underwriter's laboratory, you know, that tests things to make sure that when you touch this mic 18 times, it doesn't explode. There's not, and we're putting software in there. And that's a problem. So we think that if we keep doing the same tactics and techniques, that eventually our message will get out. But the frightening thing is DEF CON is about to turn 20 years old next year. We've been publicly putting things out there for 2 decades, and we haven't had a dent on the consumer market. What we're actually looking to do is we're believing that the people that gave you this and told you this was a protective measure from it are looking out for people. They're not. So I'm talking about something a little different. The end of my talk is basically that I'm not saying we shouldn't keep doing hacktivism because it is good, but we needed to start doing a little old school security advocacy, old school activism. We need to start actually putting our concepts to people that can actually make a difference in the language they understand. Because the less we do that, well, we're not getting our message out there, and the consumer market's not going to change, as evident by the products that we have put out there. We know this is coming. We've seen it. We just want to be prepared. I think that's all the time I have. If there are any questions, I can hang around. I don't really have a website or a place I can put this, but I have some friends that might, if anybody's actually interested in some of the elements of it. And I am doing a paper on this, which the paper is out of control, because I think I'm up to like 10 pages of how completely fucked this is. That's me. If you want to follow me, I do the Twitter thing. I don't really post a lot of security things, mostly a lot of just nagging people that I know. Thank you for your time.